Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. And we had a big week for the Steelers. Russell Wilson finally got his first start. And I don't even know why they went with him. I guess because Tomlin said he has higher upside, which makes sense. But if you're Fields, you have to feel like just trash. You got the team 4-2 or whatever they were in the playoff hunt. You think that they would go in the hot hand because a lot of times in the NFL, if you're not a top quarterback, one of the top like 2 or 3 guys, if that, everyone else is kind of just like even around that mid-range. Like I don't think people are going to sign up and say like, ooh, if you had Matt Stafford from like the Rams or like even Jared Goff, like is it making that much of a difference? Maybe just a locker room change. But like the flip for both of those teams, is that really a big difference if you're kind of like an upper tier starter? And I feel like that's the kind of what Russell Wilson might be. He's nowhere near the top of like one of the best. I like the one, was it Collinsworth or whoever's doing the call? He rolled out and threw the ball right into the dirt, right? And then I thought, this is embarrassing. And they try to make an excuse for him, like he was off balance there a little bit, like the wind blew a little bit, kind of pushed him back. And then the next play, dude, it's like a 5-yard dump off to like the tight end or someone, running back, and they're like, "That's the Russell Wilson we know and love." I'm like, for a 5-yard dump off, bros? What are you talking about? That's the guy. That's what you're waiting for, Steeler fans. I got to come in and throw a 5-yard dump off after dirting one. It was just it shocked me. Some of the deep balls weren't there. I mean, they got caught somehow, but like he was underthrowing them, and so I don't have high Russell Wilson confidence. They played the Jets. I don't even think the Jets are good. Davante Adams got traded to them. They lost to the Steelers twice in 7 days.
That is hilarious.
It's like
you should go to the Giants and go for 0 for 3. That might be the greatest burn of them all. Like, I can't beat the Steelers.
The worst part would be if he just stayed with the Jets and the Jets beat him in the playoffs somehow. That would be like a pure Steelers twist on the season. They get to the playoff, Russell Wilson starts to die. Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what's up with Aaron Rodgers other than just old. And they keep talking about how great he is, and I keep thinking, like, if he didn't beat the Steelers at one Super Bowl, what would be his legacy? Nothing?
Pretty much.
Like the ultimate Peyton Manning. But at least Peyton Manning put together like a couple other Super Bowls with the next team he went to. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to win the Super Bowl with the Jets. I don't care how many guys they bring in right now. It's not happening. They're not going to beat like the Patriots. Or not the Patriots. Getting confused with my old... I was thinking Eli Manning and how he beat the Patriots. Because I have Eli. And every time I hear Manning, I think of Eli. The best Manning quarterback. Bro. Didn't have to change teams or like join a super team to get a Super Bowl ring. He just got it done himself against the best Patriot teams. But right now, the Chiefs are still not even looking good. And they're still winning. And the Niners keep losing. And I think like that has to be culture. The Niners. I don't know where they're going to go from there. But 100%. I don't think that they're gonna make that move. If I'm being honest, I think what was I even talking about? I'm losing my train of thought. I'm going crazy here. But I think the Chiefs, they're gonna put it back together. The Jets are not gonna get it done. There's no way, no matter what happens, that they're gonna be close. The team that's surprising me are the Ravens, right? Because Derrick Henry works in that offense. It's so bad for Steelers' way that they could actually win the Super Bowl. I haven't thought that before with the Ravens. Every time someone hypes them up, where they're like, Ravens are great. And then I'm like, they're going to turtle and they're just going to run the ball and nothing's going to happen in the playoffs. And then that's exactly what happens and they lose. But now with Derrick Henry, they might just force win games because teams are going to get tired of tackling him. Where in the past, they'd get into like a 3rd and short situation or something and try to run Lamar and they'd get stopped. Where now it's like Derrick Henry might be able to pound through And with that's a scary offense. Honestly, it's over the top that it could work. And I wouldn't be surprised. And then with that, I'm just like, I'm kind of just like on the AFC side, I really think they keep talking about how the Steelers have a chance. I really think that it's Ravens, Chiefs right now again. I don't think anyone is close. I've watched a lot of football. They try to talk to Steelers are close. Steelers are not close.
They're close.
No. They're like Indiana in the Big Ten close. Where they can go undefeated, look at their schedule, and you're like, they're going to win the Big Ten. No, they're not even going to let them play for it. They'll go to like the, what was that show where they went to like the laundromat? And that movie, was it that I don't even know, Friday Night Lights maybe? I don't know. What's the other one? Remember the Titans? It was one of those high school movies, right? Where they're like, the big tie in Texas, we got to go flip a coin or whatever. Draw straws. And then that one team got to go. That's kind of what will happen to the Indiana. Except they won't even have to do it. It'll just be like the, what was that rumor with the NBA draft where they thought they had one envelope that was cold, like from the freezer, and that was the Knicks pick, I think. Except it will be like all stained. It'll just be soaked in water, and people are like, "Oh, that's the Indiana that he's throwing out there." Everyone already knows it. They're like, "We're not going to pick Indiana." Are you kidding me? But I'll save that talk for later because I want to talk more for the SEC side than the Big Ten side. But yeah, Steelers. They're not going to win the AFC North, bro. The Ravens are going to beat them. The Ravens are going to be the best team in the AFC North by far. And then the Steelers are going to be right back there. I don't think they'll be at 500. I think they're going to hit the 500 mark, which is Tomlin staying. And I long term, what do? Do you stick with Russ? Do you try to get Fields? Or do you draft someone else? Because this can't be sustainable having two QBs on the roster.
It can. I mean, look at... I said from the gate, I don't think it hurts because you don't want to be the team that has... Look at the Jets last year. They went all in with Rodgers. He blows his Achilles out, not even a quarter into the game, and the rest of their season was down the tubes.
Well, I thought you were going to bring up the only example of this ever working was like what with Montana and Young, but then they eventually let Montana go and they won the Super Bowl with Young after.
Oh, you could use Montana and Young. You can use the New England comparison with Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady. You can use the Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers comparison with Tampa with Green Bay.
But were those like old guys that they really wanted to get rid of but didn't?
No, but I mean I think there's something to be said with having that veteran quarterback and then the understudy.
Well, see, I was just thinking like Montana was old and they were like, this isn't going to work. We need to get you out of here. But they're pretending like he had the higher upside. They get him to the Chiefs, right? To get rid of him. I'm wondering if that's what they're doing. Use Russell Wilson as trade bait. And then you go with that. And then eventually you bring in Jeff Garcia as the next quarterback. Right?
Plausible.
I don't know who the Jeff Garcia would be. Caleb Williams? No, not Caleb Williams. Steven, was it Rattler? Who's the guy that's
Spencer Rattler.
Spencer Rattler, yeah. Get confused. I don't know why the hell called him Steven or whatever I said. Your boy Jameis. Could be Jameis. He's yelling. What's he even doing these days?
Well, he's going to be the damn starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns now.
I didn't know if it was him. Because then they have Huntley and they let him go. And then Huntley was playing somewhere I saw.
Well, Huntley was playing for Miami. And like the weird thing was that they signed him in Cleveland. And I thought, there's another example of you have Watson signed to this mega contract that like he had to play. And I was seeing some things speculating that they didn't want Jameis to go out there and really play well because then they're going to look like idiots for having him be on the bench while they're 1-5 or 2-4, whatever. Like, so we want to be in a spot where we kind of save face. So we're just going to put him as like the third string quarterback Well, then both their quarterbacks got hurt, and so that now they're down to just Jameis, and he drives down and scores a touchdown towards the end of the game.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, like, the Browns' move with Watson has to be one of the worst deals of all time. Is it not? If not the worst. It's like Bobby Bonilla bad. Except they're just not paying him still, right?
Yeah.
Because it's almost... I want to say it's sad and depressing, but like for a fan, where do you go from there? Right? Like you can't, I'm 100%, I'm all in on my team. X, Y, Z, this, that. And then you're looking at the quarterback they brought and they killed that team. They were in the AFC Championship game. Now Cooper's gone. Now Watson's done. It's almost like a rebuild. I mean, Steelers could give him Russell Wilson. Right? But then what? Actually, Russell Wilson, I don't even mind him. He's a good NC State guy. He seems to kind of favor NC State over Wisconsin, which is funny because a lot of the media just assumes he's like a Wisconsin guy. I mean, he was at NC State for longer, right? It's like the old grad transfer switcheroo.
Yeah, he was one of the OGs of switching around. Yeah,
I think he graduated. He played baseball at NC State, so he was there for almost, I think, 4 years, and then he did he was one of the first like big time graduate transfers to Wisconsin for who was even the coach there? Was it Bielema? I don't know if it was Christ. It was someone like that. I think.
Yeah, Paul Christ.
And then he did well there. They went to like the Rose Bowl and beat like TCU maybe. And so everyone just assumes he's like that guy. But I think he had a falling out where they were like, you're not going to play baseball anymore. And he was like, well, then I'm going to play for a better football team. Peace, homie. Like, that was it. I could be wrong on the story, but I know that he sticks close. I want him to kind of do well. I mean, he's not bad for Pittsburgh. But I just don't think, if you're looking for anything other than the mediocrity that the Steelers have had, he might be able to get you over 500 to where you're like, what, 10-7 or whatever the new record would be with the league, 10-8. It's going to be something like that is my bet right now. I don't even think he finishes the year as a starter, to be honest. But
really?
But he's going to get hurt. He's old. It always happened at Seattle. And this was years ago. This is even before the Broncos. He's going to get dinged up. That's why I was joking about, hey, maybe they'll just start him like week 18 or 17 so that he's ready for the playoffs. Because he's only got a handful of weeks in him. And then Fields is so young and he's broken, man. The Bears broke him. And then he sees Caleb Williams playing decent. So he has to be like, it was me. I'm the loser, right? Now they're like, you're winning and you're still not getting picked to play. Imagine that, right? You're thinking, I'm going to work, I'm doing everything right, I can't wait. They're gonna put me in this week, and they're like, yo, you gotta we didn't pick you. And then he's looking around like, what are you talking about? You didn't pick me? You didn't pick me. And then he's just yelling in the background like, pick me, somebody pick me up. Don't leave me out here, it's cold in Pittsburgh in the winter. That's what it'll be like, except he'll just be standing in front of one of those big heaters. That they talk about Najee Harris. That's another thing that annoyed me. They were like, this guy runs with passion. And I thought, when is that happening? Where are they seeing this? Is he running like in the stadium stairs before the game? I mean, I know he actually had decent stats yesterday.
Yes, he did.
Sunday, which made me laugh. But that's what I thought. They started talking about him running with passion now. That's what swung him into the good direction, right?
Yeah. He listened to that pep talk I gave him.
Yeah. I mean, my fantasy team is just so hot and cold that it's going to be an awful year. You're probably doing well. Every time the Steelers do well, you probably win, right?
Yes.
That's what happens. I
Well,
forget. Well,
because he was running so passionately, he got me the points I needed.
my team's a mess. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. is so awful that like some weeks he's getting concussed, some weeks he's just not showing up, and then some weeks he's going off and like winning the game for me the week. And so like this week I had to gamble against him because I thought he's not coming back from that concussion 100%. He fell on the ground, right? They was going to put him out there. He's not going to play that much. I think he had like 5 points, so I made the right call. But then they didn't even do well. They did beat Jim Harbaugh, which is interesting because I'm going to talk about Michigan here in the second half of the show when we do our college talk. But there's been a lot of leaks coming from Harbaugh's side of things now. You probably haven't seen these, but Jim's like friends and things are putting out feelers saying that he never wanted to leave Michigan. The day after they lost to the Cardinals and now the Chargers are 3-3. And I'm wondering if he's feeling like buyer's remorse. Because like he's having his right hand like talking man that helped like get him to Michigan and all the stuff. They're blaming it on the AD. But he's kind of making it feel like, look, I didn't even want to go to the NFL. And so I'm wondering if he was all happy during training camp, remember? Everyone talked about how great he was. Then he had that heart thing. And now they're 3-3. So if the Chargers start losing consistently, what's going to happen with them? Like they're going to give him a few years like Gruden, right? They have to. Didn't he sign a mega deal?
He signed I thought a decent deal.
I mean, it would be weird if like he came back to Michigan. We've seen coaches do that, right? Coaches go to like the NFL and then come back to like the college team, and they always are bad the second round, right? I don't know if I've seen one where, I mean, like I guess you could say maybe like, was it? No. I don't even know. I don't know of one situation. I like we've seen coaches jump up. I mean, Urban didn't come back yet, which would be a good one. I guess you could say Sarkisian maybe. But then he had that weird like alcohol thing he had to get taken care of. I don't remember when he went to the NFL. Wasn't he with the Falcons?
Possibly.
Or was he on the OC there? No, I swear he was. I don't remember when it was, if it was before USC or Washington. He was kind of like from there, had some off-the-field issues, went to the NFL, and then he came back. I mean, Nick Saban would be the number one, but he didn't go back to the same school. He went to the Dolphins and came back to Alabama. I don't know if Jim would go to a different team.
Well, for as rough as Michigan looked on Saturday, maybe he would just say, you know what, just let me go. I'll go back to college.
He's going to have the show cause, dude. The NCAA didn't want him there. I'm on the field that Michigan AD slow rolled it. Remember he got that award? And I told you that award was like because he did what they wanted. Like they got rid of Harbaugh. So they gave him athletic director of the year. He didn't do anything. The guy did nothing. Harbaugh's feelers put it out, and they're like, under his tenure, Michigan lost Beeline, like one of their best basketball coaches of all time. The only like Northern women's softball coach to win a national championship, the hockey coach, and the baseball coach that was runner-up, right? Again, the only Northern team to ever be like runner-up. I mean, Michigan has won the national championship, but I mean like recently, right? So the AD is letting all these guys go, including Harbaugh, and they're like, Harbaugh's team is putting these out this week. They're putting out like stories like that where, hey, the baseball coach asked for more things, and they're like, no, just go to Clemson. Like, you're not going to win there. Like he's almost playing hardball with them. And I mean, they saw them cut Harbaugh's salary, but the NFL, it is cutthroat. So yeah, he had success with the Niners, and I said that if he coaches and has a winning record this year, I think he's going to be in the top 50 all-time winningest coaches in NFL history. Harbaugh, I think he makes the list. Jim, I don't know if John's on it. I mean, he'd have to be kind of close. Him and Tomlin, right? Maybe Andy Reid. What other coaches have been there long-term that seem like they win every year? Current, it'll only be those three, right? Am I missing anybody? I mean, just think back to like the Chunky Soup days. Those coaches were there for those commercials. Mid-2000s, Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid with the Eagles. Now he's doing Allstate. He's switched. Still looks the same, though. But I don't know. Let's see. What other coaches do you think are on the hot seat? Because the Jets fired their coach, right? And then they made a big deal about how they're promoting from within. And then some of the other coaches that they're talking about potentially getting canned, it's kind of tough to say, like, if the Dolphins have a bad year, do you even consider getting rid of the coach whenever it's Tua getting injured? Like, some things that I hear, it just doesn't make sense to me. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they need a scapegoat, and that's the scapegoat, right? Like the Browns. You fire the coach because Watson sucks? I mean, the owner has to be telling him to play Watson until he got hurt. I bet there was a celebration. Not in the owner's room, but in the coach's room. Where they were like, thank God. Now we can move on. And if Jameis comes in, if that is their guy that they're going with, and he lights it up, what would you do? You buy a Jameis jersey?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, because you don't want to wear a Browns in Pittsburgh country, a Browns jersey, right?
That's a big negative.
You could dust off. Do you have a Florida State version? You don't have any Jameis gear?
Negative.
I have a Tom Brady Michigan jersey. That's the hero that Florida State doesn't have. If Jameis became like their Tom Brady, then I think you'd be all in right now. He's only the Tom Brady of making funny interview clips, right? Because Tom Brady's interviews are not good. Right? I thought they'd be more interesting. Eli and Peyton are more funny. But I thought Tom Brady would give a little bit more. But he's like a boring bland. He's like perfect for what they hired him for, though. To educate the fools that are just on their couch watching football. Like, oh, that was someone asked, I forget, I was watching a game and there was an untimed down. And they're like, what was that? How would they do that? I'm like, that happens all the time. There's a penalty. Untimed down. What are you talking about? I've been watching football for 10 years. Never heard of that. 10 years? You never heard of that? An untimed down? Aha. That's the kind of stuff that makes you want to jump off your roof, right, bro? But anything else you want to talk about for the NFL? I don't even know if I have anything. The Lions had their guy, Williams, right? Suspended for PEDs. Which, come on. That has to be more rampant than what they tell you. Some of those guys just look like total beefcakes, dude. And you don't look like that. I mean, I know they're working out. They're supposed to be working out all the time. But we know they're not. I mean, my man AB still looks good, though. I saw him. He's out campaigning with Trump. So that's what... Some guys, I guess, just stay in shape. Terrell Owens is always in shape. Looks like Ocho Cinco's in shape. AB's still in shape. Must be like a wide receiver thing, maybe. Running backs, you watch that Heisman House and you're like, ugh. None of these guys are in shape, right? Maybe it's their name. Running back, they're used to running all the time, and once they retire, they're like, I'm never running again. And it shows. Except for Reggie Bush, he seems to be in shape. I wonder why Fox canned him, right? They brought in Ingram for their big noon. And he's kind of like, he's like the Pat McAfee of the show, if that makes sense. Just over the top, and I'm like, why is he here? I like the show a lot more without him. So, who knows? But yeah, any other NFL stuff?
No.
Let's get into college. We're going to start with the ACC because Florida State lost to Duke. And
first time ever.
Nah.
Yes.
They've never lost to Duke?
No.
I don't believe that.
That is a fact.
Where's my phone? I gotta look it up now. I don't believe you because
Why would you not trust me?
I'm gonna go to my factual Winsipedia because they play like 100 million times. They have to get lucky at least once.
No, they've been terrible.
No, they had that one guy that everyone liked. I forget his name. He was Peyton Manning's coach.
Cutcliffe.
They only played 21 times, dude. That's why you're tricking me. I knew they joined the ACC late. They didn't have to play him because they were in the other division. Well, I hate to break it to you. 100% of Duke's wins. They're on a streak right now. Florida State might never win again.
There's a very distinct possibility.
That's where I'm wondering, like, honestly, if you are... I'm not if you're like a Florida State fan, but if you're in year 5 of your coaching tenure, I don't care how many transfers you've lost, your team should not look that bad. Do you think Norvell is under any pressure?
I want to say that I don't think he's under pressure, but I think the assistant coaches, specifically on the offensive side, are in a world of trouble.
Well, I think they should clean house. I mean, we talked about it off the show. Michigan did that after 2020, I think. Got rid of Don Brown. Got rid of, like, was it Gaddis or Pep Hamilton? Like, whatever. They got through. It was around that time. It might have been a couple years before. But they got through that by getting whole new staff, new training things. They brought up Ben Herbert. I think he was, like, from Arkansas or somewhere. Had previously worked at Wisconsin. And that's kind of the turnaround. Like, you focus, like, all right, we're going to bring in guys similar to, like, the Wisconsin-style ball, bring in their strength and conditioning guy, and a couple other guys, like, offensively pound the ball, like, minded, and it kind of transformed Michigan, where Florida State right now, they don't really have an identity.
They don't,
watch them. It's kind of like... Go ahead.
But I feel like there's bigger issues with their program right now, because I mean, if you can't be so narrow-minded that you ignore the fact that they were undefeated last year, and
they were. Why weren't they in the playoffs?
Because they were in the ACC. It was awful. You watch this year. You're going to have a 3-loss Big Ten team or a 3-loss SEC team in the playoffs.
I know. I was hoping it was us, but that's not going to happen, bro. And if it was us, you know how funny that would be, because that would include wins against Ohio State and Oregon. It could be the funniest season ever if everyone writes us off and then we somehow make the playoffs as a miracle. But you can bet against that. They'll lose this week against Michigan State. That's a lock. The line was 21. I would have bet my house on it. It went down to 5 very fast. And I thought, because at first I thought Michigan's not even going to come close to scoring 21 points. So that's a lock. All Michigan State has to do is score one time, and that's 100% going to happen. Michigan's going to have at least 2 turnovers, man. So I couldn't get the bet in fast enough. It went all the way down to 5, and then I kind of hesitated because you're like, you can't bet a crazy amount of money and then lose it, right? Then people like Rocky Balboa show up and try to break your knees until Nick stops them from neck breaking or whatever he called them. But yeah, the ACC, I'm looking at it like right now, people keep talking about, NIL's flipping it around. I've been warning you. I warned you about having SMU in the conference. I warned the Big 12 about having BYU in the conference. People are like, oh, no, come on, guys. What are you talking about? I'm like, guys, these are teams that were paying in the 80s. You think they're boosters? I mean, they could have all died. That was like how many years ago now? 30, 40 years ago? I don't think they did, though. Right? If they're paying in the 80s, licking their chops, and now you're giving them power conference money, yeah, of course they're going to keep paying again. And now it's legal, so they're probably celebrating good times. That's why I keep seeing, like, here's like the NIL biggest programs, and they're kind of just like ranking the top 20 programs right now, and I'm like, there's no way this is true. Like they had one team had Virginia on it. I'm like, there's no way Virginia is going to be paying more than SMU or BYU. They don't have them because they're private schools on that list, most likely. But I mean, even Notre Dame, to be honest. Notre Dame has to be throwing some money around because their boosters have to be so annoyed. They deny that Michigan's a big rival, but they have to be pissed Michigan won the national championship. Like, they have to be. Can you imagine? Oh, we can't win. We're in the North. Oh, yeah, no team up here wins. But we came close a few times with Brian Kelly. Yeah, that was okay. And then Michigan wins it, and they're like, holy crap. Asterisk. I still see Notre Dame and Ohio State guys, like, teaming up, yelling asterisk for no reason. And I'm wondering, like, what is their deal? But SMU right now, and this is what I was going to talk about on the show, the conferences right now, the ACC and the SEC, their scheduling is a mess. Their leaders have to be so low-key panicking over the stupid 8-game schedule that it's making me laugh every time I look at the projected like playoff. It could work out for the ACC this year because they have two very clear top teams. And I wouldn't even say Miami's very clear. It's clearly Clemson that's undefeated. They're 5-0 already in the conference. But then you have Miami. But you do have SMU and Pitt that are both undefeated. I think they play each other, but they don't play the other. So you could very well have, or I forget, I think two of the teams play each other, but the other ones don't. So you could have a 3-way tie at the top of the ACC from what I previously looked at. And maybe I'm wrong because a team could have lost that I had looked at before. But if that happens, then, like, what do you do? Do you pick the two teams that have your best chance at the playoffs? Most likely that's going to be like Clemson and whatever. Like, it would be funny if Clemson is your best shot at the national championship and instead they don't even play for the ACC championship. They have to take an at-large and then they have to travel to like Ohio State or something. And they're like, oh, great. We'll be bounced in the first round. Compared to like if they had been in and got the bye and then they could have played one of those teams at a neutral site. Because like it could be, and I'm just throwing Ohio State out there because I know like right now they lost to Oregon, so Oregon would get the bye. Ohio State most likely is going to be one of the higher ranked teams. Clemson could very well have to play in Ohio Stadium, and that would be awful for them, I would think. They never go up north. Clemson is just like an SEC team. I mean, I guess they go up north to like Boston College, but that's not real. Right. I mean, like a full stadium, not like a 30,000 exhibition game. Because like even Pitt, they have
But hold on a sec, because you brought up SMU, and I feel like SMU to the ACC is what Texas A&M is to the SEC. That yes, they have deep pockets and they're going to throw a bunch of money around, but I also look at it from the same vein that just because you're throwing money around doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the pick of, or that you're going to end up with the most competitive team, you know?
Funny you mentioned that, my man, because A&M is on my list to talk about. Because right now, they're on top of the SEC. They only have two real challenging games left against LSU and Texas. And Texas right now finds themselves in the midst of a quarterback controversy, which is never good. Where if they start flipping quarterbacks, I don't care what anyone says, Quinn Ewers is the clear better quarterback. So if you start switching to Arch Manning, that's going to derail their season real fast. And A&M could end up beating them. And you could sit there and say, all right, now we have an A&M in the championship game. What if they play like Tennessee or Missouri, right? They might not even play Georgia or Bama or anybody in the championship game. Bama has 2 losses. They're effectively done, right? Oh my gosh, who else only has 1 loss? Vanderbilt? Oh, good grief. Let's look at Vanderbilt's remaining schedule, Matt. Texas, Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, and Tennessee. Oh, they don't play Georgia? Oh, that's a shame. Like, we don't know how good LSU is because I'm bringing them up because I'm just glossing over them. I don't want people to think LSU is good. They lost to USC. Michigan beat USC. The real USC, not South Carolina. So, with this unbalanced schedule and 8 games, we could, and it might not work out this way because when teams are not talented, like a Georgia, they have a greater chance of slipping up. And a lot of these teams have already slipped up. The only ones that are undefeated in the SEC right now are A&M and LSU, and I think they play this week. Right? Let me double check that real quick. So they played this weekend at 7:30 p.m. LSU also has to play Bama, Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. So I'm assuming they're going to end up with like 3 losses. And Georgia,
all throughout Jimbo Fisher's time with A&M, he's such a good recruiter and blah 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 blah. The A&M is going to be so much better because they have all these resources, and it didn't amount to anything. You know, I think the edge ends up coming to being able to get the most out of the players that you have on the roster, and I think that, you know, when I look at FSU right now, I feel like part of the problem is that there were some issues with their staffing and trying to get the most out of their players.
Well, that's where you're at right now with A&M. Elko from Duke, so he's used to getting guys to play above their level. Jimbo went from Florida State, where, let's be honest, their talent level is probably better than A&M. Even when they were paying, it wasn't like A&M was putting out as many pros as what Florida State did. And then they also had, in the SEC, you have more of a talent balance, where he had a surplus most weeks in the ACC, where Florida State had more talent, and they should have been winning. And honestly, that's not a knock on some of the other schools, but like you really only have a talent like balance 2 or 3 weeks out of the year. That's why it's always baffling to people like in the media that think USC was going to come into the Big Ten and they were going to just stomp everybody. It was like they weren't even stomping anybody in the Pac-12 and they had a talent advantage. Now they have more balance. Like Michigan's easily as talented or more talented than USC this year, and they beat them, even though Michigan's badly coached. So you're in a situation where in the Pac-12, most of the time, you're a bad coach team, you have more talent, you're going to win. And that's where like some of these teams and their coaches, they're coming back. And I'm looking at this, and I'm just wondering, are they going to regret having like a shortened schedule? Although it would be good, to your point, Jimbo Fisher never made it to the point where he could convince game-breaking players to come to his program. Right? Like, that's the difference. Michigan was able to get him because like they had Jim Harbaugh. He was successful in the NFL. No matter what negative recruiting anyone used against him, he could just be like, I can get you in the NFL. Look, my brother's there. And so then they were getting like all these studs that were on the D-line like every year is ridiculous. Where A&M, it seemed like Jimbo kind of, I don't know if he just gave up or he just didn't like it anymore. But he wasn't getting like game-breaking guys. And A&M used to have them. Didn't they have like Mike Evans and Manziel and a bunch of other dudes like that? So they can get them. And I just don't know if Jimbo kind of packed it in and that's just got a raw deal. I mean, hell, look at Lincoln Riley right now. Because I'm going to talk about Michigan coaching here. There's a real situation that could happen where both like Brent Venables and Lincoln Riley could get fired this year. Because how many years do you give them? You bring in Lincoln Riley to come over and they're looking like garbage. You can't lose to Maryland. That's the talent advantage I'm talking about. It's insane. And Oklahoma was not prepared for the SEC, and I knew that was going to happen. That's why everyone, when we talk about, conferences, when Michigan won the conference, like Michigan's like third all time, I think. The only teams that have won more conference titles are like Oklahoma and Nebraska, and I thought, well, all right, Michigan has a good chance of passing them up hopefully in 20 years.
Well, hell, isn't that why Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to begin with?
And then they went to the Big Ten.
He just outright said to him, like, yeah, you're not going to be able to compete this way in this league.
And so USC's in the same boat. That's why, like, people keep saying, because so Michigan's coach right now has ties to Oklahoma and like has ties to Venables and Lincoln Riley. There's rumors that if they're getting let go, they could end up the OC and the DC at Michigan, which would be the most insane offseason like I've ever seen. Like the Michigan money cannon would have to be in full effect for a coaching swap like that, or a coaching coup, I would say. Because right now, I think Sharon Moore is coaching for his job. I would say, talking to some people that I know, I would say 40% chance he's back next year. It's that low. Because the talent advantage that I was talking about, this Michigan team is so talented that you're looking at an 8 floor for this team. And I know the quarterback thing is an issue. Sharon Moore was the offensive coach, and the guy he promoted to be offensive coordinator was the quarterback coach. It was 100% their job to identify and bring in quarterbacks no matter what. I keep seeing defenders say, well, Jim Harbaugh was supposed to come back. He wanted to come back, and if he came back, JJ was going to stick around, so they didn't look for a new quarterback. That's not an excuse. It's not, they didn't come back. Like they didn't come back. And the year that like people keep saying, well, it was a late hire. D'Antonio quit signing day that one year, and Michigan State got Mel Tucker. And my argument, and I know Tucker sabotaged himself on Zoom, but he went like 11-2 that first year. Like it was insane how well they were able to put a good staff together, bring transfer recruits or whatever they needed to do in for his first year to be successful. And they beat Michigan that year. Of course, it was a Big Ten ref overturned a touchdown, or a fumble touchdown, I think that Hutchinson caused, which in hindsight, Hutchinson's awesome. I'm waiting for his leg to heal. Hopefully that's going smoothly. So we know that was a touchdown, just based on talent alone. But my argument to other Michigan fans is, and I know they don't want to hear this, Brian Kelly came out and said that he was interested in the Michigan job. Full stop. Whether you like Brian Kelly or not, if a guy that has one of the highest winning percentages of all time in NCAA history took Notre Dame to the title game, if he comes out and says, hey, if Harbaugh leaves, I'm interested in the job. DeBoer did the same thing. His agent said, hey, what is the chance Harbaugh's going to the NFL? We need to know. And then obviously he needed to know because he got an Alabama offer, right? Which he might be regretting. So if you have two coaches, tops in the league, in the entire country, interested in your job, and then you don't do a job search, that's 100% on the AD. I don't know who else. Like, even if you're going to say, like, hey, we're going to promote from within, you should still take the call. If Brian Kelly calls you, he's had more success than most Michigan coaches in recent times. Brady Hoke, Rich Rod. I mean, obviously he didn't win a title like Harbaugh or Lloyd Carr, but the other ones, he's up there. He coached at Central Michigan, I think. So he wants to coach in the North, it seems like. He doesn't like LSU. He's recruiting like gangbusters, and he's signing the top Michigan quarterback at LSU this year. So all you have to think is, oh, you know what? If we actually interviewed him, he'd probably just take that quarterback to our team. And then the argument that everyone's telling me, oh, Michigan just doesn't have a quarterback, would be instantly fixed by just interviewing Brian Kelly. Not that I want Michigan to hire him, but if he's interested, then so are 10 other top coaches. Michigan could probably have had their pick. Because based on the information coming out, Michigan's throwing the NIL money cannon around just like Ohio State. I think the latest on 3 is that they're both like 20 million plus this year coming up for new deals. They just locked in a 5-star lineman recruit for next year, which how do you do that with the year Michigan's been having? Unless you have the NIL stuff figured out. I mean, we saw it with basketball. Michigan filled a top basketball class on short notice again with a coach from Florida Atlantic that wasn't even known for recruiting. So Michigan needs to figure it out. And I'm going to say the same thing that I told you for Florida State. At this point, the Harbaugh thing didn't transfer. You hired Sharon Moore because you wanted Harbaugh's culture. That's what it was, a culture hire. You didn't even interview anybody else. The culture did not stay. Michigan didn't lose games like this under Harbaugh. They didn't look this bad. Clean house. Clean house. Honestly, everyone hates Wink Martindale. I wouldn't even mind seeing him coach again. He'd be the only one I'd probably bring back. I mean, Kirk Campbell should have been fired immediately after the game. It's insane that he still has a job. Michigan's offense has looked that bad. You told me that it looked like they had no explosion. Dude, these are the same guys that were outrunning, like the receiver that's on the team was the guy that was outrunning Alabama's DBs last year, Tyler Morris, on the team. Samaj Morgan, game-breaking punt return against Iowa. All they're doing is running like 5-yard screens to these dudes. And they're getting just tackled because they're not running any vertical plays to open anything up. And they're blaming it on the quarterback. Well, okay. Scheme some things open. You can't just... The most Michigan thing that I saw was it was a 3rd and 6 early in the game. They ran a 3-yard tight end out. Punt. That's coaching. If it's 3rd and 6, why the hell are you running a 3-yard out? And it was the first read. So that was the design call. It was quick out to the tight end. Took maybe 2 seconds off the clock. That was the play they drew up, a 3-yard out. Why? What the hell? And they have Donovan Edwards, which he came back. I know he was on the cover of college football. His prospects have to have tumbled. They're not giving him any plays in space. At least they ran 2 running backs this week, like I said. But Khalil Mullins only had like 19 carries or 15 carries or something. I forget what it was. Nowhere near the amount that they needed to wear the defense down, and it showed. Didn't have the push in the second half because they're not running the ball. They're just doing 3 and outs. So, Sharon Moore, you're the offensive guy. Fire Kirk Campbell or demote him. Whatever you need to do, you should be taking over play calling because I think your job's on the line. If you lose to Michigan State, I don't care if you... Unless you can convince, which I'm assuming it's probably lackeys for Sharon Moore around the athletic department that are kind of filtering this rumor of maybe getting like Lincoln Riley and Venables or one of them next year after they get fired. It's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what we want. Coaches that were just fired to be our new coordinators. Awesome. Great work, guys. Great work. A bunch of losers together. What a record be. Right? They're wanting, Michigan guys are wanting teams to do so bad so their loser coaches can come coach for us because we have loser coaches. It makes no sense. It makes 0 sense. And so, I mean, whatever. What are you going to do about it? That's my take on it. There's no excitement. Like I told you, I would have bet the house that Michigan State would have covered that 21 line. And that's how I know the talent. That's the coaching difference. Michigan State, their talent was so low. They were picked to like finish, 11th in the country? Or the conference, 11th, 13th. They're one of the bottom Big Ten teams based on talent alone. And they look better than Michigan. They're going to beat Michigan this week at home. It's at the big house. Michigan State's going to beat them. And then there's going to be no excuses. Because big-time boosters have already kind of said, he better not lose to Michigan State and Ohio State. Especially Michigan State. This year, that was supposed to be a lock. Based on talent alone. Michigan could have just ran out there and ran all over them. Remember, they crushed them 49-0 last year. They blamed it on the signs, but then Michigan State huddled every single play, so the signs had no impact on that game. It's going to be bad. I'm waiting for it. That's my take. I don't know. Sharon Moore seems like a good guy. This seems like a Luke Fickell season. When he was at 2011, he was like the interim at Ohio State. Went 6-7. Lost to Michigan. Sharon Moore is going to end up probably with the worst record. I thought they had 5 wins. I thought we might make a bowl game by beating Northwestern. I'm thinking we end up 5-7. Although Northwestern is not even a lock. Indiana's going to stomp us. Signetti, he went on that pep rally and said Michigan sucks. You don't say that unless you're ready to kick their ass. I know Indiana's quarterback got hurt. Yeah, it was like a finger or something. Like, you don't talk trash on the team and then not, like, he even said like he regretted saying it because now he thinks his program's going to have a target on their back. Now he's going to be 100% up for that game because there's no way he can say Michigan sucks and then Michigan does suck and he loses to them, right? So if you want another gambling log, bet that Indiana team against this Michigan team. Unless by whatever reason, I've seen all of Michigan's quarterbacks, except for the freshman. And this is the other thing that gets me. Michigan has a freshman that refuses to play. And supposedly, like, he wants to redshirt no matter what. In today's NIL era, who cares what he wants to do? If he doesn't want to play, cut him. You could transfer someone in next year. Right? Michigan needs a quarterback right now. He's been around the team. Give him his chance. He can play 4 games, right, Matt? I don't care if they think he's undersized or can't pass the ball. Rumors are he's not very accurate. And you don't get accuracy by redshirting. I'm sorry. I was hoping that the accuracy thing would come. You come in from high school, you have good accuracy. Apparently it doesn't translate. Redshirting is not going to help you. If he doesn't play this year, I don't think he'd play a snap at Michigan. I don't think he'll play a snap because honestly, I think Michigan's going to get a new coach and I think they're going to bring in their own quarterback. Just like every other transfer coach. Every other coach that gets hired somewhere brings in their own quarterback. Pretty much. That's why maybe Michigan State didn't. I don't know. I can't remember who. Well, no, he came from Oregon State, didn't he? And they had DJU. He didn't take him with them. Maybe that was a red flag, Matt.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm guessing he wanted him to come to Michigan State. I think that was one of the rumors, right? You guys outbid Michigan State for him. But who knows? So the Big Ten's kind of in the same boat, though, with the ties where Oregon already beat Ohio State. The Penn State-Ohio State game is for the Big Ten championship game, like the play-in. It's almost like the old Michigan-Ohio State Big Ten East games, where whoever won that was going to win the East and then probably win the Big Ten championship. This year, though, I think it comes down to Ohio State and Penn State, they're going to play Oregon. It's not a lock for them to win the championship unless Oregon stumbles twice. Although, no, I guess if Penn State beats Ohio State, Oregon and Penn State is going to be the championship game at this point, barring a bunch of upsets, because Penn State is undefeated, and they would both have a tiebreaker over Ohio State, so both teams could slip up twice. Although the dark horse, like you mentioned, is Indiana. So if Penn State does slip up and Indiana ends up undefeated, not playing anybody, they play Ohio State, right? So you could get a one-loss Penn State if they slip up. Or no, if Indiana beats them, that'd be one loss. Indiana loses to Ohio State. And they might even play each other. But I think you could still have a 3-1-loss tie. Where if Oregon slips up against Michigan or Washington or someone, or they might have already played Washington, I don't remember. But if they slip up against their Western rival or Michigan, then you could have 3 one-loss teams, one being Indiana. They're not going to pick Indiana. Are they? I could see the Big Ten. No, I could see the Big Ten
does have a history of saying, "Nah, dog, you're just sit this one out."
This is what my conspiracy theory would be. In that situation, they would tell Oregon, like, "Hey, you guys are new. You're not going to play in the championship game because we want you ready for the playoffs." And then they don't take an extra loss, so they get the home playoff game. Penn State crushes Indiana, right, or whatever, and then boom, Penn State. And they don't get the home game, playoff game, or whatever, but Oregon does. Or they do the same thing. They tell Penn State, like, hey, you're going to sit this one out. Let Oregon crush Indiana, and you guys can get a home playoff game in front of Beaver Stadium. I think they'd want that better, right? They don't want to play Oregon in the championship game and potentially lose.
You don't want to play an IUP, man.
Well, I don't want to in Michigan, bro. Oh, we're going to get killed so bad. I look at the lines, and I'm just wondering, if you're interested in gambling against Michigan, just text me. I'll tell you what I'm feeling and what I'm hearing. Because I am not hearing anything good. Only excuses and finger pointing. And it reminds me of the Brady Hoke year. Except that year, I was kind of low-key pumped because I would go to the games and chant for Harbaugh. Who am I chanting for this year? Brian Kelly? DeBoer? Like, I don't even know what coach I would want Michigan to get. Like, it would have been DeBoer last year. And if he reached out before taking the Bama job and said, like, hey, any chance Harbaugh's leaving, let me know, I'll delay this decision. Well, then what the hell, Michigan? Because DeBoer's he coached at Indiana. He's more of a Big Ten guy. Getting him to Alabama And he took Milroe. I told you Milroe was a bad fit. He threw that interception to lose the game against Tennessee. That's the biggest regret from the offseason. If I was master of the NCAA, I would have made Milroe transfer to Michigan, and then DeBoer could have started fresh with his QB, and I think both teams would have had a better year. That's my final thought of the show. Anything else you want to talk about or add in?
Typically, this is a big week for me because it's Florida State, Miami, and they've been on a roll playing the Hurricanes. But it's kind of hold your breath now to see, because we literally lead the NCAA in drop passes and stupid decisions. So it's going to be a rough week.
That's why people are asking me why I'm fired up against Michigan. It's like they came off a bye week and had no plan and looked so like they regressed 3 times against Illinois. That's 100% coaching.
Well, and I looked at this too, like with some of the concerns with Florida State. I kind of go from the mindset of what's the better option? Like everyone wants to say, fire the coach, like boosters will pay his buyout, like get rid of him. Okay, that's a really good idea in theory, but realistically, who's the better option? Like,
well, see, Norvell has success.
He has had success. That's why I'm not in the camp of firing him at all. Like, I feel like there was a reason last year that there was threat of Alabama poaching him, and I didn't like it because it was like, well, who do you go get? Like, as much as I enjoy watching that Tennessee Ole Miss style offense, those guys haven't won the conference, let alone playing on the big stage for a national championship. So, like, the thing that I would like Florida State to avoid is the cycle of suck that Miami and Florida has entered, when you start thinking that you can just throw money at the problem and it goes away, because all that does is it just creates instability within your recruiting, and then they negatively recruit in that aspect, so you lose out on recruits and you end up with a worse situation on your roster that then you can't compete. And then you can't compete, so then it creates a scenario of not being able to recruit. So like it just creates a cycle of suck that is really hard to get out of.
That's where I'm coming from, and I can answer from the Michigan side. So, like, when Brady Hoke was there, he lost the team. And you could tell. I don't know if Florida State has reached that point, but from right now, from, like, Sharon Moore, he doesn't have experience as a head coach. So what I want to see is him step up. I'm not saying fire him. Kirk Campbell is in charge of quarterbacks and the offense. Everyone's saying the quarterbacks are awful. Why are you going after the kids? Go after the guy that his job is to make the quarterbacks look good. I don't even think he did JJ a service. I didn't think JJ looked, I mean, he ended up being a top 10 pick, but Kirk Campbell, people probably don't know. He was fired as the offensive coordinator from Old Dominion. That's where Michigan got him from as a quarterbacks coach. He was demoted, and then he just got promoted again. And I don't think he showed anything in his tenure at Michigan to show that he was the offensive coordinator. 100% awful hire. I didn't like it to begin with, and I still don't like it. And the quarterbacks under him, everybody has looked awful. Even JJ at times. Look, remember the Alabama game? Throwing that pick for his exact play, and then it took time for him to kind of settle down and do his JJ stuff. That's 100% on coaching, like not getting him a nice in-rhythm pass to open the game or whatever. Like, yeah, let's throw double outs where the guy just undercuts it. Yeah, good call. Good play call. 2 guys in the same spot. They tell you not to do that. That's the kind of thing where it's like, Sharon Moore, you want to be the head coach? You don't have any experience. I can't be mad at you. I can't say that Michigan needs a new coach. It was kind of like when Harbaugh, Florida State reminds me of like when Harbaugh was there before COVID. Something changed in Harbaugh, and it made me sad. And I never really said that we should fire him, but I knew that he needed to make changes. I think I was very vocal against Don Brown, and you were trying to talk me out of it. But that Don Brown, like Michigan was just stale at that point, and everyone had the signs, and Ohio State knew exactly what was coming, and they ran crossing routes like 100 times and beat us by like 63 to like 37 or something like that. And it was like, Harbaugh needs to decide. He needs to be the head coach and make the decision to bring in new staff. And that's what he did. And it paid off. That decision brought 3 Big Ten championships and a national championship. Sharon Moore, if he has a plan to do Lincoln Riley and bring him in, okay, awesome. If that rumor's true, awesome. But what's stopping him from firing Kirk Campbell right now and trying to salvage this season? Because if he doesn't make any changes, Michigan, like I said, they're not making a bowl game. Firing Kirk Campbell and maybe bringing back some of the looseness of the quarterbacks, because right now everyone's playing tight and everyone is afraid to make a mistake, and all they keep doing is turning the ball over. Fire the offensive guy now. Try to get a spark in the middle of the season. If the offense had any pulse, Michigan's defense would be 100 times better, and they wouldn't have to make so many gambles, because everyone keeps saying they're gambling too much. They have to. They're the only ones that are scoring points. Then was it USC that they won because Will Johnson had a pick 6? Like, that was it. Or maybe it's a different game. Like, it's insane that Michigan's only games where they're winning is when the defense scores a touchdown, because the offense is that bad. So maybe if the offense was kind of at least serviceable, Wink wouldn't have to blitz so much. And the guys are already sitting out. Michigan had 13 guys sit out last week. That's a bad sign. So at that point, if you lose a team, that's when the head coach has to go. I don't know if Norvell has lost a team. I don't follow that close. But at bare minimum, the offense reminds me of one of those crappy Penn State offenses, where I know you probably don't watch Penn State as much, where they're kind of just like aimlessly throwing the ball. The series don't flow, very Michigan-like, but it's just like with a passing flair, instead of Michigan's just run heavy, 3 runs up the middle with like 1 running back and no blockers in. And you're like, I don't know why that didn't work. And then, or it's like I said, 3rd and 6, and they're running a 3-yard out, a quick out that should be a first down play instead, which probably would open things up too. Get your best receiver the ball. That's just going to infuriate me. Loveland's going to be like a first round pick as a tight end, and they're going to be like, "What'd you do at Michigan?" Like, nothing this year. I probably didn't even have to play. Teams would kill to have a Loveland on their team. Heck, look what Penn State's doing with Tyler Warren. He's their entire offense. And that's the biggest joke to me, other than the stupid 1924 filter they put on the game that almost made me go blind. They talked. They're like, we sat down with Michigan offensive coordinator Kirk Campbell and asked him, like, "Hey, did you ever think of using Loveland like Penn State's been using Tyler Warren?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's something I've been thinking of doing." Really? You've been thinking of doing that? Good grief! Get out of here! Fire him. That's all.
Well, they're thinking about it.
He's thinking of like, yeah, that would be nice if we had a good tight end. It's like, we do have the best tight end. Loveland was like the best tight end this year. Now he got passed up by Penn State's Warren because they're actually getting him the ball in space. Great work, staff. Great work. And it's not like Penn State's designing crazy things. They're just giving him the ball 100 times and watching him do it. I know Loveland got hurt the one game they were trying to do that, but good grief. Anything else? You think Florida State will fire Norvell?
I really don't, but I feel like
he needs at least 2 more years.
Whether it's his choice or the athletic directors, I feel like there needs to be changes on the offensive staff. And the 2 that are most frustrating are wide receivers coach and linebackers coach. And I feel like there's a soft spot in my heart for Ron Dugans because he was on that national championship team, and I know that there is history there with him at Florida State, but it's just like I was expecting there to be so much more growth out of the receivers, and for them to drop as many passes as they are, I feel like it's unacceptable. Yeah, from that level. That I think you have to move on, and to put it on Norvell if he's unwilling or unable to make those changes within the staff, that he's got to go.
Well, good news. I think Dabo has some like family members that are coaching. You could probably grab one of them. That's all the Clemson people complain about too. The nepotism hires. Not that Florida State was doing that. I just thought it was funny to bring up. my Clemson tidbit. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Everyone's probably loving the misery because we went from having undefeated teams last year. You guys got your goal of winning the ACC. Michigan got the national championship, the real prize, right? And then this year, both teams are bad. Florida State's worse. If Michigan was that bad, we would have been firing Sharon Moore, right? But Florida State had a lot more guys. Well, I guess Florida State had a lot more guys leave. That's the thing, that the continuity excuse is just what kills me. But we'll see what happens. We'll talk about it next week. So thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.